Mr. President, thank you very much. Your own intelligence community has assessed that the Afghan government will likely collapse.
That is not true.
Can you please clarify what they have told you about whether that will happen or not?
That is not true. They did not reach that conclusion.
We just learned that the presidential palace was officially handed over to the Taliban. Just remarkable images coming in all day long of this transfer of power, which has happened so quickly. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, I mean, I think officially is probably the wrong word there. We're talking about a situation where the president, maybe former president now, Ashraf Ghani, leaves town unbeknownst, nobody aware of this. We simply learned about it from rumours and then his own officials.
We're back inside. We're just showing you again, our viewers who are following this, just showing you again those pictures from earlier of Taliban fighters behind the desk of the presidential palace. Taliban fighters have taken down the flag of Afghanistan inside the presidential palace. That flag has been rolled up.
Mr. President, how serious was the corruption among the Afghanistan government to this mission failing there?
Well, first of all, the mission hasn't failed yet. But the likelihood there's going to be the Taliban overrunning everything and owning the whole country is highly unlikely.
Again, look, you told me a few months ago on this program that you thought it was entirely likely that the Taliban would be taking over the country. But President Biden, just last month, quote, the likelihood there's going to be the Taliban overrunning everything and owning the whole country is highly unlikely. He was wrong.
The Taliban is not the North Vietnamese army. They're not remotely comparable in terms of capability. There's going to be no circumstance where you see people being lifted off the roof of a embassy of the United States from Afghanistan. It is not at all comparable.
What you're seeing right now, U.S. helicopters over Kabul shuttling out American personnel as the Taliban moves into the capital. Kylie, we're learning the embassy, the U.S. embassy is now fully evacuated. Is that the case? And what more can you tell us?
Yeah, all of the U.S. diplomats that were at that embassy have now left. They've evacuated. They have been taken to the airport in Kabul.
You're hearing so much activity because they are using the cover of darkness to pull so many people out as quickly as possible.
I mean, that's long been during the war here at its height. They use darkness to move around for greater safety. So that's a likely reason as to why we're hearing this at this stage here. But what I was going to say was normally you would hear that drumbeat of helicopters and it would be the Americans going somewhere, doing something, showing a sign of their dominance of the skies, essentially. Now it's clearly a sign of weakness because they are simply trying to get out as fast as they can. But it's a bizarre position that President Joe Biden has put himself in here. Strategically courageous, you might say, to realise that this had to come to an end at some point. But by now putting in the field here 5,000 troops, pretty much double the number he had to pull out as part of his withdrawal strategy, he's setting up a very awkward, if not deadly, potential few days ahead with the Taliban here, who frankly consider that they run this city now, for which all intents and purposes, maybe there's some pockets of resistance, it seems like they pretty much do. We'll find out more tomorrow morning.
There's nothing they would like more than to see us in Afghanistan for another 5, 10, 20 years. It's simply not in the national interest.
You keep changing the subject to whether or not we should be there forever, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about whether or not this exit was done properly, taking out all the service members before those Americans and those Afghan translators could get out. That's what I'm talking about. And then you have to send people back in. That shows, that's a definition of, oh, we shouldn't have taken those troops out because now we have to send twice as many back in.
Look, I think it shows that we were prepared, the president was prepared for every contingency as this moved forward.
That's all that was asked for. 2,500 soldiers, very few casualties, low cost, and we've thrown it all away for absolutely nothing.
And yet President Biden continues to stand by his decision, says he has no regrets, even though just last month he said that the Taliban was highly unlikely to take over large swaths of this country. And here they are. What do you make of the president's decision and his decision to stand by those words?
Well, I'm horrified. I worked with Ambassador Holbrooke and Secretary Clinton in 2008, 2009, when President Biden, then Vice President, was arguing for a light, long-term footprint in Afghanistan. And that was exactly what he inherited from President Trump. Exactly the thing that he'd been advocating for. A few US soldiers in an airbase at minimal cost and minimal risk. He could have kept them there, instead of which, I'm afraid, driven by some fantasy about victory in the midterms, he decided to make a gesture which makes almost no difference to the US military and has devastated millions of lives. And by doing so, he will have created a vacuum into which Pakistan and Iran are going to flow. Millions of refugees are now going to be pushed out of that country. And it's going to be a place like Syria in which terrorists will thrive. He's done all of that for no reason at all. Well, it's a terrible humiliation because, of course, you're right. This is not just a US failure. This is a failure from the UK, from France, from Germany, from NATO. The only nation that's staying at the moment is Turkey. It would have been perfectly possible to have a sensible conversation, if President Biden wanted to remove his boots from the ground, of another form of NATO solution. So the Afghans have also been let down very badly by the Europeans here. It's a very shameful moment for the West in general, and it's one that our enemies will benefit from in many ways. And of course, Europeans will feel the impact of millions of refugees. I suppose now all we can do is move on from the military to the humanitarian. And the US and the UK and others are now going to have to produce billions of dollars worth of aid to deal with refugees, to deal with the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan.
ولاړ دي انکام دی ولې لر تخریب وسی خو ان شاء الله کې دې چې تر لر تخنیکی ستونزې ان شاء الله ورسته مشکلات حل فاصل